Bible study.
It's in the middle of the night.
Everybody said their clothes ahead.
Nobody missed it.
Yes,
Yes.
Mary Ellen.
Now she had surgery. Did you see Mary Ellen?
Yes.
No, I did not get the information.
Oh, she had surgery on Thursday.
Oh, Thursday.
Doing good.
Okay, she's okay.
She's in
Uh,
fine.
I was supposed to go yesterday. I was
Very well.
waiting for the information from
I
Suzanne.
never got any.
She didn't get. So whoever has the information, give it to me. I will go after the service today. Or if you want to join me, you can join. After the
No,
service.
the Homa Hospital. She's in Oz, actually, not in the hospital. No. Rehab. She's in rehab.
She's in rehab. Okay. Where is it located?
Next door to the hospital.
Where?
Wazak.
Oh, how far is it from you?
You go to the hospital, right next to the hospital.
It's in Franklin Avenue.
Okay.
It's that's the Franklin Hospital, right?
Okay. So I'm going for communion after the service,
Oh.
after the meeting. So I will cover her as well.
How nice.
Today. Okay. Let us pray. Heavenly gracious God, thank you for this new day. Thank you for the new timings so that we can enjoy more of sunshine during the day. Thank you for all the arrangements our forefathers have made for us so that everything will be nice for us, both the weather as well as how we cope up with that. Thank you for all of us who are able to gather in your name. And thank you for giving us an ability and wake up to see another day as a gift from you, to come to our church, to have fellowship and to celebrate you during our Sunday worship. Father God, we ask and seek your divinely wisdom and guidance for all of us, especially when we go through our Bible study. Teach us. You increase, I decrease. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay. Before we go to the Bible study, I would like to show you an official video about coronavirus, just to update our knowledge on that little bit. There are a lot of myths about that. There are a lot of myths. We need to know what is right, what is wrong. So it's a short video. I think 5 minutes or less than that. Let's watch that first.
Mask will protect me from the virus. The problem is that people who wear these masks usually don't wear them properly.
The coronavirus came from bat soup. That is absolutely not correct.
The coronavirus was deliberately created or released.
You're giving a little bit too much credit here. Hi, I'm Dr. Sarah Madad. I'm the Senior Director of New York City Health and Hospitals System-Wide Special Pathogens Program.
And I'm Dr. Stephen Morris, Professor of Epidemiology at the Mailman School of Public Health, Columbia University. We're here to debunk myths about the coronavirus.
Let's get started. Getting the coronavirus is a death sentence. Well, there's a lot we still don't know about the coronavirus disease, but based on the data that is coming out, it seems to be a mild type of viral infection. There's a 2% fatality rate and about 18 to 20% that may be in the critical condition range.
And those 2% who die are the sickest. They're in the hospital already. So even those in the hospital have probably a 98% chance of surviving. So it's not a death sentence, I
It's
agree.
not a death sentence.
Only Chinese people have the coronavirus. Well, it started in China, but the reality is that it's everyone's virus. And if it gets far enough, just like the flu, it could be anywhere.
Infectious disease do not respect boundaries or borders, and for that matter, everyone is susceptible. The coronavirus is the most dangerous virus. That is not true. There are a number of different viruses out there in the world. So let's just compare it to another type of virus. So you have the Ebola virus disease, which has a much higher fertility rate associated with it.
I think the official count is now 6,000 recoveries, but one of the funny things is that we don't usually report recoveries when someone is discharged from the hospital. So all those recoveries, probably there are many more on the way as well. Wearing a mask will protect me from the virus. A lot of people like to think so, and of course a mask gives you a sense of security, but the problem is that people who wear these masks usually don't wear them properly. They've never really been trained. They may not know what kind of mask to wear.
So there's two types of masks. One, the simple or surgical mask that you see the general population wearing, and then there's another type of mask that healthcare workers wear. It's called the N95 mask, and it's a respirator, and it is able to filter particles that are airborne with 95% efficacy. And the one that healthcare workers wear, they have to go through what we call fit testing, and so to make sure they have a perfect seal.
People who may think they want to wear an N95 find it very uncomfortable after a while, so even if it's well fit, it's then especially hard to breathe through.
And the mask is really for those that are infected with the actual coronavirus disease, not so much for a healthy individual. So things that actually proven to be effective is washing your hands often, with 20 seconds, as well as obviously if you're sick, staying home. So a number of other public health measures that actually are proven to be extremely effective. The coronavirus came from bat soup. That is absolutely not correct. So what we know about the current coronavirus disease is that it started in Wuhan in a wet market where there's a number of different animals there. So there's a couple of different speculations out there, but not from somebody obviously consuming bat soup. But what we do know obviously is that once you actually get the coronavirus disease, the form of transmission is obviously through droplet spread. So coming in contact with somebody that is sick with the coronavirus disease, close contact with them, or contact with their droplets right shortly after.
You can get sick from a package sent from China. I think it's really highly unlikely when you consider the time it takes for a package to get from China.
And right now, what we do know is that obviously these droplets that can contain the viron or the virus itself, it may not be able to survive outside the human body for very long. So even if it may, for example, come on a package or a box, depending on how long it's been there, it may not actually be able to survive outside. But we still don't know. Closing borders will stop the spread of the virus. These types of respiratory viruses, they don't respect borders, as we know. And it's not the fault of a government that this type of outbreak is starting or spreading. It's just the nature of the virus itself. Travel bans historically have proven not to be very effective. In fact, it seems that it was the opposite. They caused more fear, made more chaos. People were reluctant to actually come forward with actually reporting that they have the illness.
A lot of it is perception, and with travel bans, a lot of it, politicians particularly, I hate to say, like to do that because it gives the appearance of doing something, but it is often counterproductive.
The federal government does state non-essential travel should be restricted, obviously, to mainland China. That's the epicenter, and that's where there's a lot of community transmission. But outside of China, where you may see there's over 24 countries that actually are reporting to have coronavirus disease, if there is no community transmission, there is obviously no risk to the general public. But continue to look at Centers for Disease Control's website. They have a travel health advisory section that you can actually go to and put the name of the country, and it'll tell you the precautions. And as well as go to your healthcare provider. They can provide some travel guidance to you if you need to travel to various areas that may be reporting outbreaks of coronavirus disease.
The virus only affects older people. Well, that's kind of half true. It affects everybody, even children. The older people, however, are the ones who are more likely to have severe disease or more serious disease. So all of us older people have to be careful, but it affects everybody. And even the older people, most of us, will probably not even be that sick.
The coronavirus is the same as SARS. So the coronavirus is in the same family as SARS. It's a coronavirus disease. There are two various, and now 3 coronaviruses known to cause more severe infections in humans. SARS is one of them. MERS, which is Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, is another one, and now coronavirus disease that just started, obviously. SARS was more severe in terms of the fertility rate that was reported, so it's about 10%, versus with the coronavirus, what we're seeing right now is about 2%, but still, it's way too early to tell.
This one is different. This spreads a lot more like the flu, but there are so many more cases simply because it spreads so well, so many more people can easily get infected. Large numbers of deaths doesn't necessarily mean that it's a very lethal virus. It just means that a lot of people have been getting it, and some of them unfortunately died.
And let's just take seasonal flu, for example. Seasonal flu this year started in October, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention are already reporting over 10,000 deaths, related to seasonal flu. And over again, 20 million Americans being infected. So let's just put things into context.
The coronavirus has something to do with Corona beer. And beer won't prevent it either. So Corona is simply Latin for crown, and they have a crown-like appearance with those spikes sticking up. But the beer is all on its own. It won't prevent coronaviruses, won't give it to you. It's just a coincidence.
My pet could give me the virus. So with the coronavirus, there's still a lot we don't know. Right now, we haven't seen any cases where pets are transmitting the virus to their owners.
You're more likely to give it to your pet than the other way around. Take good care of your pets.
Yeah.
The coronavirus was deliberately created or released.
Giving humans a little bit too much credit here.
So we basically had 3 coronaviruses in 3 decades, but we know that there are a lot of them in nature that look exactly like SARS, and this one doesn't look special. So this is just another one to add to the collection.
Infectious diseases can be caused by a number of different things. Obviously, they're natural in the environment. It could be due to, obviously, climate change, ecological factors, agricultural factors, human behavior, and these are constantly happening around us, so outbreaks are inevitable.
It could be very surprising that anyone would have figured out a way to create it. We still are way behind nature in being able to do that.
Antibiotics prevent and treat the virus. Viruses and bacteria are 2 different microbes. So we would use antibiotics for bacteria. For viruses, we use antiviral medications. And so, for example, with seasonal flu, that's a virus. And so one of the ways that we can treat or alleviate some of the symptoms is by...
That's it. Okay. Okay, just a lot of myths about it. So I thought this will give some sort of clarity, though this is like a week old. There are a lot of changes keep coming. It's not 24, it's more than 70 countries have been affected. This is just more contagious. That's what it is. But not more. Fatality rate is definitely less than other virus, less than even the flu. But it's very contagious, so it spreads like air. It spreads faster.
I spoke to my niece in Germany. She said they had closed lots of schools for the next couple of weeks,
right.
Several weeks.
Because it spreads very fast, especially in big gatherings and all that. It spreads. So we have to be cautious, but we don't have to be scared for that. Got to be cautious though. Okay. So let's go ahead with our. Let's start with the previous one. So we do if we come across any symptoms in us, it's better to go check up right away, and then quarantine ourselves so that we will not spread it to others. That's the responsibility of every individual. We should not take it for granted. If you feel the same symptoms or with any of us, we should go check it up right away. Okay, so we will just go over this once again, quickly, and then we'll go to the next one. Yes, somebody can read, Andy?
Yeah. The New Testament has 4 Gospels, Acts, 21 epistles, and Revelation in it.
Okay, so 4 Gospels that we all know, only 4, and Acts of Apostles. Apart from that, because that's not a letter. Acts is not a letter. But there are 21 letters, epistles or letters written to different people. That is epistle. Revelation is the final part. That is generally written, not to particular people. Okay, and 4 Gospels are Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And 21 epistles are starting from Romans. Most of the letters were written by Apostle Paul, though he does not belong to the 12 elite apostles, but he is the one who wrote most of them because he is educated. And Peter also wrote some of the letters, and James, some of the letters were written by them. Okay, so that's 21 epistles. Next. Okay. Oral or verbal tradition. I think some time back I have mentioned that, so it's worth mentioning it again. In Jewish tradition, the father, those days only men go to school. Women don't go to school, are not allowed to go to school. Because woman's job is to just stay home, take care of children, cook for the family. Even now, a lot of families are like that. My family is not like that. So I help in the kitchen.
Story now, right?
Really late.
Who's taking all the garbage? So things have changed. Things have been changed. But even now, in some of the countries, women don't go to school. Some of the Muslim fundamentals think that women should not go to, or they have to cover themselves. Things like that, They cannot go to school. They cannot educate themselves. And even in India, if a girl wants to study a lot, then the parents tell, don't study a lot. It's difficult to get a match for you. If you go up to doctorate and PhD, we cannot get a match for you because PhD means we have to match with a PhD. Doctor means we have to match with the doctor. For a doctor, we cannot, get a clerk. It's like that. It's just mindset. So they don't study too much. So those days were like that. In fact, in Jewish tradition, only men will go to school and study. So naturally, the men become responsible for teaching the entire family. Okay, so they are not educated, they cannot read. The children will go to school. Schools are not organized schools like what we have. So some of the synagogues, churches, they just learn to speak and write. That's about it. And read some of the historical background of their forefathers, like from Abraham, Moses, Genesis, all this, Torah. So that they learn and teach. So it becomes the responsibility of the husband to teach to the wife as well as for the children. So what they do, they go to the synagogue and borrow, like library. By the way, Susan, the bookshelf that you gave me is not enough. I need a bigger one. So when I remember, I have to tell, otherwise I forget. So they go to synagogue and borrow the scrolls. The scrolls.
Yeah.
So they borrow, for example, Genesis. Okay, let me get the Genesis. Then they will just see it and give them a scroll, handwritten one. So there are people who were just taking notes, not the notes, copies. There will be some educated people who will keep on taking the copies because the more that you use, it is likely to break. So papyrus stuff, likely to break and likely to be destroyed. So they have to keep on creating and keep more. Okay, Genesis, how much we have? Okay, 10 copies. So how many families we have? About 50 families. in that village. So only 10 families can use Genesis at the same time. Understood? Like that. So if you see this picture, there are a lot of children though. I've seen Jewish people having a lot of children. The other day when we were going to Albany, there was a big van and full of children and couple. And I just casually asked them, beautiful children, is this a trip from a school or something like that? No, they are all our children. I could count about at least 12 of them, 12 children.
All from one family?
One family, husband and wife. Mostly they don't go to work. The women don't go to work. So they have a tradition, even they follow that. So though they are educated, they don't go to work. So the only work what they do is producing children. Full, it's a big van.
But they have to
I don't
teach
know.
those, they have to teach those children.
They have to teach them. They have to teach them, but they also go to school nowadays.
Yeah.
Nowadays they go to school, no? So it doesn't become the responsibility of the husband alone.
If they don't
Right.
go to work, how do they?
But the husband goes to work, but not the
Yeah,
wife.
husband goes to work.
Yeah.
Generally, they are all business people. They are able to earn enough money to support their family. So here, when you see, even here, you see a lot of children here. Husband, wife, and husband is having some scroll, like something, and teaching the children. This is called oral tradition. So they hear from people and they memorize, or they just keep it in their memory, and then it gets passed on to the other generation. That's how it was done earlier. I'm talking about Bible, how it came into existence. Just imagine, now we have a printed Bible. Now we have our smartphones that we can access the entire Bible with any translation that you want. If you want a Chinese translation, you can get it. If you want any translation, Tamil, everything is available here in the phone. So you don't have to carry Bible anymore. Jonah, okay, book of Jonah, 2 minutes, not even 2 minutes, less than that, can quickly take and use. So those days, just imagine about the difficulty of preserving it. They cannot afford to have the entire Torah in their house. They have to utilize the library from the synagogue to get it done. There were people to copy it. Just imagine about how it got developed, the books, oral tradition. In India, there were palm leaves were used to write. Palm leaves. They just, when it is green, they write it using a pen. Pen means it will be a sharp needle kind of a thing. Sharp needle, and then they just write it there. So when it dries, you can read it. Manuscripts, everything is manuscript. So those days, all the poems, all the mythology, all those things were written down in a palm leaves. And one point of time, people do not read, and they started using the palm leaves in the kitchen, because there's no gas in the kitchen. They use the fire to cook. So they were using them. So like that, there were a lot of the ancient documents have been lost. And only British people collected all of them and started printing them. That's how they were able to preserve something. So it's something like that. Palm leaves or scrolls or papyrus. If you go to Greek or Israel, you can still buy the papyrus stuff that you can write. The paper came from papyrus. Okay, that's the oral tradition, how the Bible was spreading in the family and in the community. Okay, next. This is again another scene of a Jewish family tradition before. I don't know whether they teach before supper or after, but the children do come to.
It looks like he's blessing them.
Yeah, children, they are supposed to get the blessing from the parents on a daily basis after the teaching is done. If you take our the portals of prayer that we buy, you will find the home prayer in the back, which you could use it for your family prayer. The family prayer, the husband will lead. That's how it is. The Lutheran tradition is also the Catholic tradition. The husband will lead, or the wife could lead, and what to read. And it's a small service that you could do. At the portals of prayer, you can find it at backside. You can use it for your family prayer.
Well, we used to go on vacation, Pastor, and there wasn't any church around. My husband brought the portals of prayer, and we followed the portals of prayer.
Right.
So we had a small service before the children went out and played on
Right.
Sunday. So,
Very good, yes. That's good. Okay. Sometime when we were on vacation, when we drive, we stop by a church, even though it's closed. We used to sit at the door and spend some time praying and then go away. So that it will give some satisfaction there. You know, you did not skip the church. Unfortunately, the churches for 1 hour they open and they close it and go away. If you go in the afternoon, no churches will be open. It's all closed. That's it, everywhere. Okay. Our church at least is open till evening. Some activities are going on. Okay, good. Next, please. Archaeological evidences of Megiddo. The archaeology, anybody knows the meaning of archaeology? You know it, just say it aloud.
Study of
Study of the ancient culture, history, artifacts and everything by excavating the earth, because there are layers of history buried inside the earth. So the more that you dig your earth, you will find the history there inside. Because yes, sir.
I can't, I know it's true, but it just seems very strange. You think in 3,000 years this church will be under 15 feet of ground? It seems very strange.
Yeah, because of various natural calamities, it had gone down. A tsunami comes and completely submerges the entire city or a community. We don't know. For the new community, we don't know. So when we read some manuscripts or written on the stones, they find it and they come to know there was a city existing in the same place, but the sea, the ocean came and swallowed. So people go dive down and see the city alive there. Same manner, some earthquakes come and topple down the entire thing. It goes inside. Nobody knows. After 500 years, after 1,000 years, who knows? People, sometimes people dig in their farmland and they find some pots of gold saved by the ancestors inside. That's a treasure. As per the law, I don't know about US, in India, if you find a treasure inside, that belongs to the government. Whatever you have on earth belongs to you. Under earth belongs to the government. So the archaeology was born in Israel. How many people know that? Because anywhere you dig, you find something in Israel. Because tons of history down in the earth. So if you see this, that's how Indian history, everything was excavated inside. And inside there is a city. You heard about the Indus Valley civilization, which is the oldest one in India, 5,000 years old. And they found excavations inside, and they had all houses built utilizing bricks and all. I don't know how, where did they find and locate, and they had big palaces built and all down in the earth, excavated. You can see from the ground level, you see inside, everything is inside. So the same manner, if you see here, excavation here, you see inside. So you see a house here, maybe, the living room, bedroom, and stuff. So they found it inside the earth. Wherever you go in Israel, there are a lot of archaeological sites. There is an education that you can specialize in archaeology. And there are archaeological departments under government serve. Their only job is to do a lot of findings like this. Okay? And archaeological evidences of Megiddo. What is a Megiddo? We will go for that. Next. Yes, please.
One of the most important archaeological mounds in Israel. Tel Megiddo contains the remains of historic Megiddo, a fortified city that sat strategically on the ancient trunk road from Egypt to Syria and Mesopotamia.
Mesopotamia.
Yes.
Okay, Megiddo has served as an important junction and battlefield throughout history. It is mentioned in an Egyptian document over 3,500 years old, was one of the chariot cities of Kings Solomon and Ahab, and was the site where Josiah, king of Judah, fell in battle. In 1918, the British defeated the Turks here, and in 1948, during the War of Independence, the Israelis overcame invading Arab forces at nearby Mishmar Hamak.
So this particular Megiddo seems to be a battlefield. And from ancient time to the recent times, there are a lot of battles happen in this place called Tel Megiddo. So why do we know that? Why do we have to know that? Next slide, please.
In the New Testament book of Revelation, Megiddo is identified as the site of the last great battle of the world, Armageddon.
You got it?
Yeah.
No. So this is where, because ancient, historically, this place, there are a lot of battles are happening. And this is where the Armageddon will also happen, is what the New Testament book of Revelation says. Okay? Yes. Read.
Okay, excavations have uncovered the ruins of 25 cities dating from 4000 to 400 BCE.
The BCE means before Christ, before Christian era. 4,000 years means 4,000 plus the recent 2,000, 6,000 years back. Some of the cities have been found during the excavations. How they identify, find out about the years. There is something called carbon dating. In the carbon dating method, they are able to find out about how old is it. Even if they find a small artifact, they can find how old is it by utilizing the carbon dating method. With that, we will close and we will start from the Megiddo next week again. Thank you so much.